Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in for a bonus Guerilla Sports Off Ice Pod hosted by 7 Brew Coffee. We're up in Firestone. We're going to talk Avs Eagles ahead of a matinee game for the Colorado Eagles. I'm Meghan Angley, joined by the incredible Chloe Field this afternoon. Chloe, you were not supposed to be on this show, but I'm really glad that you are. Tell me about your morning.
Twice in 24 hours, also that we get to go live together. That's really, really exciting. Jesse had a few delays this morning with his flight coming back from Anaheim. So he texted me up at about 10 a.m. and said, can you be ready by 11 and head up to Firestone? And I said, sure, why not?
Sure.
So it's been hectic so far, but we did it. And now we're finally live.
And we have matching t-shirts.
Yeah, check this out. If you go to 7 Brew and you buy a large coffee, you get a free t-shirt. And we didn't even know that.
We didn't know that. They have several promotions going on right now. And so Sunday they have something like if you buy a medium coffee, for the price of a medium coffee, you actually get a large. Yep. Similar with the small. If you pay for the small, you actually get a medium. And so they have tons of specials running in addition to the friends and family days that they're also hosting. And I think what impressed me the most, finally getting a chance to be up here, well, one, you could see this large coffee is very gone. So
this is bigger than my head.
A little nervous for that. Also a little nervous. Chloe said that she wanted to try one of the energy drinks. So if you see her doing laps around that 7 Brew drive-through, you'll know. But the flavor options were incredible. The customer service, car size, so very
great.
Similar to a popular chicken restaurant. So friendly, my pleasure, that kind of thing. And it was all very quick. We got our t-shirts and our coffee in a matter of minutes. You tried
I got the blondie, which is vanilla breve and caramel, I believe. It is so good.
You can definitely tell we're caffeinated right now.
Oh, yeah.
But we've been preparing on the drive up here and getting set up to talk about some hockey with you guys. And we come on the heels of a great Avs road trip. They go 2-1 after going 4-1 on the road trip before this. So this has been a huge road team for a little bit now. They had a lull coming back from that initial road trip, not feeling very well, but a big win over Anaheim in the second leg of a back-to-back. How are you feeling about this team right now?
I feel so good, and especially after yesterday, how we were saying that we hope it's very similar to the New Jersey game where they're able to just pick themselves up right away and go into this next game. It wasn't exactly like that in the first period, as we all saw, but Scott Wedgwood, my MVP of the game, he did absolutely fantastic in that first period and definitely kept the Avs in it for the entire time.
You had talked about Wedgwood and the possibility of the leadership component.
Yes.
And you shouted out his post-game interview after last night. We're going to play it for you guys first, and then we can talk a little bit about the significance of this.
And you expect to win every night, right? Like, you have this squad, this team. Ever since I got here, I put the jersey on. I expect 2 points. We expect 2 points. It's a standard we got to hold ourselves to. And when we didn't execute it, we had to answer back. And I think maybe the 20 minutes was just get our legs into it. We survived it, and then I felt like we took it to them for the last 40.
I think you guys haven't been here for this whole 13 out of 17. But were you been able to sense that guys could use a week at home?
I could use a week at home. I've been on the road for 37 of the last 40. I feel like I had a 13-dayer in Nashville, and I got traded, and we've been on the road since I pretty much got here. Wife and kid are now in Denver, so I'm really excited for tomorrow. I'll finally see them. It's been heart-wrenching to watch her grow up over FaceTime over the last month and a bit. When I left, she was barely standing up, and now she's just pulling herself up on the couch and checking out FaceTime and stuff. So that's been really hard on me. But yeah, get home, obviously well-rested, your own bed, better schedule at home than on the road, and hopefully we can rest up, obviously do what we need to for one more, and then turn the tide after Christmas.
It was nasty. Parker just said if you're not playing the way that you were in that first period, he doesn't know if you guys get the 2 points from tonight. Just what can you say about the amount of confidence the group seems to have in you guys as a tandem right now?
At Lumberyard? No, I think we're going to give you guys a chance to win every night. Obviously, we're we're trying to just stop pucks. I don't think it's really what's happening in front of us. I'm never going to blame the guys for anything. Keep the puck out of my net. There's deflections, there's tips, there's pucks that are going to go in. But if we can do our part to keep us in the game, and sometimes it's going to take 20 minutes on the road on back-to-back for the boys to wake up. We called ourselves out in here. We got a standard, and that first period wasn't it. And last 40 we answered and came away with 2 points. So you'd love a 60, night in, night out, but I haven't seen that for 82 games at any team I've been on. So find a way to win, and if I got to do a little bit more on these back-to-backs, that's kind of my role.
KV last night and Parker Kelly gets you guys going tonight. What can you say about the depth of this group?
Oh, I love it. You put the jersey on, Colorado Avalanche jersey, we expect to win. This skill set, this team, we got every resource. They run the organization very well. So, I look around the room, and instead of tonight, you can't really, beat yourself up with the external factors, the back-to-back, the road, the travel, whatever it is. We have a standard, we have an expectation, and that's 2 points every night. You're not going to get it every night, but you got to give yourself a chance. And like I said, the first 20 we didn't, but the last 40 we did, and that's what it took to.
To hear Scott Wedgwood say every time he puts that jersey on, he expects 2 points, really captures the winning identity of this team. It's been a part of their culture for years, but it has felt like at points this season, maybe it's been missing. What do you think is significant of having a guy join the locker room newly and just get it so quickly?
Is it not the most inspiring thing you've ever heard a goalie say? I feel like I never hear goalies talk like that. It's like that he's a top 6 player playing for the Avs right now when he is a goaltender. And I do think we talked about it yesterday on the pod. I tweeted it this morning. It's refreshing to have that and to have somebody step up into that role. And I think his energy he gives, it amplifies all of the other players. So when he's playing well in the first period, everybody's thinking, okay, we have to step up for our goalie, which is just amazing considering what we were dealing with earlier in the season.
He even pinpointed that first period, and he takes a collective view of it. Like, that just wasn't up to standard, even though it's not single-handedly his fault in any way.
Yeah.
He views the failures of the team as part of his own failures, so he takes ownership of it. The whole group collectively takes ownership of it, and they go on to improve from that point on. I want to also key in on a second here. The penalty kill, Parker Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, getting the short-handed goal is huge from a momentum perspective.
Yeah.
But this penalty kill has been surging in the month of December. We talked about it just yesterday, but now it's 5th in the league in the month of December with just 3 goals allowed, 30 opportunities. That is a pretty significant turnaround, and you can't help but look a little bit at the support that they're getting from a goaltending perspective, but as well as the energy guys like Parker Kelly and Logan O'Connor who picks McTavish's pocket to make that Kelly shorthanded goal possible.
Mm-hmm. I think the PK is coming back, and maybe it has already come back, but I do think that we've said it before, I'll say it again, everybody plays better when their goaltending is better. And that would seem like an obvious reason, but you can really, really see this when Wedgwood is in net, when Blackwood is in net, you can tell that they just have this sort of energy that they didn't have before.
It's completely true. I think someone in the chat also highlights Keaton Middleton. I think some of the energy players that they've brought up in this recent stretch, now Keaton Middleton being one of them, the addition of Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood, I think it has an absolute difference on the morale of the locker room. The vibes seem to be up. It feels like they're playing a little bit looser with a little more confidence. Yeah. But there's a lot of hunger too in what they've been doing lately.
Yeah, and I think Middleton too, not only is he a big guy, but he does have a big presence on the ice. Like, he is somebody that I have been noticing a lot more recently, and I'm definitely happy with the way he's been playing lately.
I think Keaton Middleton is a great way to transition a little bit into the Eagles portion of the show, because the Eagles will be playing in just a little bit here. Their last home game of the 2024 season before we enter the new year in 2025. They'll be going on the road for a little bit, and they kick things off with a huge win, 5-1 over the San Diego Gulls last night. One of our favorites, Nikita Prishepov, had his first career hat trick. And it's not just, all right, he seals it with an empty net goal, but the way in which he scores the first 2 goals is incredibly impressive, something to get excited for. And so this portion of the show is going to be capturing a little bit of what the Eagles have done so far this season and keying in on some of these guys like a Keaton Middleton or Prishepov who have stepped up when the Avs have needed them and have been able to impress and assimilate pretty easily. This is a different version of Keaton Middleton than I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
I felt that way about Andreas Englund when he was called up and just never really sent back down and then used as a trade piece for Jack Johnson. Keaton Middleton, though, not in the same position, has just dialed in exactly what the Avs need him to do. And he's been a part of the Eagles' success this season, too. I think for this point in the year, just before the holiday break, I feel really good about where the Eagles are at. So last night, Chase Bradley, he scores his 8th of the season off a beautiful deflection. And now he's tied for the team leading goals. This is a player that came in. He was originally drafted in the Detroit organization, but he became a free agent. They let his rights expire. Avs swooped in immediately out of the University of Connecticut. He was kind of a middle six player, oftentimes playing on their second line. And he has adapted to the American League very well, especially coming from the NCAA. So he opens the scoring now, goals in back-to-back games. Nikita Prishepov. His first was involved by hard work. He stripped the goals player of the puck and wristed it far down. So I want to key on what he's done well with kind of the Avs and the Eagles this season. The Eagles, 9 points in 15 games, 6'1", 194 pounds, and he was drafted just this summer in the 7th round. So a few months removed from his draft date, he's getting called up to make his NHL debut straight from the queue. So he comes from major junior, gets in a couple of pro games with the Eagles, and then his NHL debut is here. Kind of a crazy timeline for this player, but I felt he stepped into the 10 NHL games that he's had so far looking a lot less raw than I thought that he was going to. Very strong on his skates, hungry, and battles hard. What have you liked about Nikita Prishepov?
What I love about all of these players making their NHL debut is that they are really taking the opportunity to soak in the experience. And every single one of them, you can tell that when they get pulled up and they are able to make their debut, you can tell that they're working really hard. And I would love to see another opportunity for Prishepov. I think it must be inspiring for the Avs to be able to see the way that he's growing in the American League. Sorry. So I really hope that he spends some more time there and he continues to grow. And then when he gets moved up, once again, then he can be more of an asset.
Someone needs some blondie. Clear the throat. The Eagles are 6th in the Pacific Division. Now, I think that sounds a bit odd because the American League standings and divisions are structured a bit differently from the NHL. And so they are climbing within the Pacific on a game-by-game basis. They can fluctuate quite a bit. So they have a .604 win percentage, 5th in the Pacific for both their special teams, both power play and penalty kill. Their penalty kill in particular has been great, and their shot suppression as a team. This is a very good defensive Eagles team, which is why they try to inject some scoring back into the Eagles, because the Schneekloth identity is a very hard-fought and good defensively team, but they obviously wanted to get some scoring back. They've lost some of their scoring punch year by year. There's a lot of turnover in the American League. So Jure Nala is a player that, of 9 NHL debuts that have happened for the Avs now, at 26 years old, coming from the SHL, makes his NHL debut. Last night, he's had 5 goals and 15 assists in the American League for the Eagles, and some of the other top guys have been Jacob McDonald, a familiar face, 15 points for him. He kind of leads the back end in terms of production, but also just dialed into his details. Captain Jason Megna returns back to Colorado. All is right in the world. 19 points for him. Matthew Phillips is one that I've been really excited to see in the Eagles lineup. 20 points, and he was in the NHL for 28 games last season. He got moved around on the waiver wire a little bit. He, to us, was most familiar, to me at least, from his time in the Calgary organization, being an absolute menace to play against when it was Stockton versus, the Stockton Heat team at the time. And so he has been such a great playmaker for the Eagles' top 6. He's leading that top line, and he distributes that puck and is able to get Jason Megna some points. Ty Felleber, another player that we saw make an NHL debut at 26 years old. He came over from the Milwaukee organization in the American League, and he signed a 2-year NHL contract with the Avs this year. It's one of his best years in the American League yet. He is the team leading goals, tied with Chase Bradley now at 8, 13 points, top line power play guy, but with grinder habits. And then back to Chase Bradley. He had 2 NHL games, and he told me that he wants to get stronger. I don't know if you have a lot to say about Chase Bradley, but I think he fits the conversation of you talking about guys coming up hungry.
Yeah. I think he's the same exact way, and I wanted to ask you about it too. Do you think that their top 6 is the one really leading their team right now, or do you think that it's the entire team?
That's a wonderful question, because I was looking at their third line, and that's actually kind of where Prashepov plays right now, and we're talking about him in NHL conversations,
Right.
loosely adjacent to. And so I would say they're getting a lot from their top 9.
Yeah.
I think they're still figuring out that fourth line, because there have been key players returning from injuries that are getting slotted in there and working their way back to gain speed. And so that's where we've seen Andre Pavel now return from injury, play on that fourth line. Jason Poland return from injury and play on that fourth line. They are players that I think we absolutely need to keep an eye on in terms of where they fit in the Avs bigger picture with call-ups. Because they've been injured, it's given opportunities to some of these other less likely players. And that's where the sad part of the conversation comes in with Matt Steinberg, because he made his NHL debut this year and he brought such necessary sandpaper and grit. Obviously, there's a suspension in there as well. He's still learning how to toe that line and play a disciplined game, but he's a tenacious forechecker, strong two-way game, long reach, and he's a reliable penalty killer with the Eagles. So he adds so much depth to their defensive efforts, and that's why I think he actually looked pretty good in his NHL call-up.
Oh, yeah. And I think right now is the time where the Avs could use him most, because he has that Miles Wood energy where he is chaotic, and you need that during this right now on this team. And I think missing Miles Wood, Steinberg would be the perfect person to call up and have join the team. So it seems like they're definitely missing that aspect a little bit.
Which is why this is a little bit sad for the 24-year-old. He is out with a lower body injury, and it's described as being something of a long-term thing. So I know people have been asking about him. Will the Avs maybe give him another look and just have him serve his suspension? Right now, fortunately, that's not the conversation we're having around Steinberg, but I still think that this is a player we keep an eye on once he returns to health. Like our friend Sean Behrens, who should also be in this conversation, at least from the back end depth perspective. But love what Steinberg did this year.
I agree. I think hopefully when he's back and healthy, I think he'll get another chance to play with the Avs.
And this one is a little less of an Eagles player this year, because he's kind of solidified a role as a full-time NHLer, and that is best name in the league. Ivan, 34 games played, 5 goals, 3 assists with the that doesn't seem right. That number might ignore that. 6 feet, signed a two-way deal, two-year deal with the Colorado Avalanche this past March. He turned what was an American League contract into an NHL one. He was undrafted and got invited to Dev Camp 1 year, impressed in that rookie tournament, and now he's impressed in back-to-back rookie tournaments. I am not surprised by how quickly he is assimilated.
Yes, this is the kind of stuff that makes me trust the Avs organization a lot more, because of players like this. I feel like maybe not really took a chance with Ivan, but I think a lot of people maybe thought that he wouldn't be doing what he is right now, and he would be playing with the Eagles. So, I have a lot more faith in the Avs organization, knowing that they can bring a player like Ivan in and sort of developing him while he's still playing with the Avs.
I think it's a great point, because he spent a full year in the American League last year, and they did so many things right with him to get him ready for this opportunity with the Avs that I'm sure even the Avs weren't expecting from him. But they had him on the power play, sometimes on the second unit, sometimes promoted to the top unit if there were some absences, and he thrived there. But they also had him on the penalty kill. Now, that's not a role he's really been utilized in with the Avs, but it's an important tool to have in his toolkit. In addition to being a true center, they have allowed him to develop as a real center option in the American League. Sometimes you see guys come out of junior and get moved from the middle to the wing, like a Steinberg. He's often been playing on the wing, but he played center in college. And I think it's so good to have some versatility and center depth. And that's where obviously Cal Ritchie is in the pipeline. He's going to represent Team Canada and World Juniors this year, but he wasn't quite NHL ready. It's good to have Ivan developing as a center. I think that's going to be really useful for their depth in the future. And I think he's a honey badger on the ice. I know maybe at the NHL level we don't totally see it, but he's got fast speed. The J Fresh card had him among like players 23 and under. He's in the tops of the rookies, if you will, in terms of his speed, high motor, great work ethic. And I think that's why he's fit into the NHL and the Avs as well as he has.
Yeah, I think I would love to see a little bit more from him. And I feel like I say that about every player, but I don't think that he's getting comfortable because I think he's been really pushed out of his comfort zone. But I want to see a little bit more from him, just a little bit.
His game has grown a little bit quiet with the Avs.
Yes.
He is in more of a depth role. You know, there were times where we saw him on the top power play unit very briefly. And when there have been some absences, he even still goes in on the second unit. But it's been a little quiet.
It has been quiet. And maybe I'm just thinking that way because there's been so much happening lately in the past few weeks that I've just been looking at him a little bit less. But
and, you know, it's a good transition to name here. No, Jason Lane asks about Giovanni Smith. He seems like he has some sneaky speed and some good toughness, which I think the Avs needed. Obviously, he's part of the return in the Alexander Georgiev and Nikolai Kovalenko trade. And that's where I think Ivan is on a fourth line that hasn't quite figured out what it wants to be yet because it's a revolving door of personnel. You know, sometimes it's Chris Wagner on that line, sometimes it's Juraj Anala. And so I think when we talk about Casey Middlestat and all that changing personnel, it can be a little hard to build chemistry. And so that's a lot of responsibility on Ivan, too, to sort of be something of a driver and a steadying force on that fourth line at such a young age. But I like Giovanni Smith for the toughness. That's what they shout out in the comment. And I do think he is a Jared Bednar-coded player because he does bring a little bit of that grit and sandpaper. He just didn't make the best impression because of early penalties that costed his team in kind of important moments.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how I feel about him just yet. I think I need a little bit more time to see the way that he plays. I wasn't exactly impressed by him taking those penalties because when you join a team for the first time and that's as a fan, that's the first thing you see a player do. You're like, who is this guy? Right. But I do think that he is adjusting pretty well on that fourth line. And I would like to see a little bit more from him before I make a case.
I think that's completely fair because since those early penalties, I actually haven't minded what he's doing, but I don't think he's adding right now. And that's where I'd like to see him add something. Obviously, the toughness is important, but I think that's where the bottom six on the poll is looking for a little bit of change because Giovanni Smith, you know, in the San Jose organization, the reason that he was placed on waivers is not because he did anything wrong. It's just that he wasn't really adding something, and they needed more scoring. And so that was sort of the decision behind it. Avs don't necessarily need scoring the same way the San Jose Sharks do, but they really could use depth scoring. So that's where I think Giovanni Smith can change his impact. I think you mentioned Miles Wood a little bit earlier. That is somebody who also brings kind of grit and physicality to the lineup. If we could get something more of a Miles Wood mold out of Giovanni Smith, I think that would really help me to see his fit on that fourth line for longer term.
Maybe as he gets more comfortable, maybe that will come out of him a little bit. I'm not sure that's what he was doing with the Sharks if he had that sort of physicality, but I'm hoping that he just needs a little bit more time to get more comfortable with the team, and then we'll kind of see that.
9 NHL debuts for the Avs this year. To recap, Nikolai Kovalenko technically made his regular season NHL debut. Cal Ritchie, Ivan, Nikita Prishepov, Matt Steinberg, Chase Bradley, Ty Philipper, Juraj Anala, and we can't forget the goalies. Trent Miner finally makes his NHL debut at 23 years old under very unexpected circumstances. Coming in as relief, he signed a one-year contract with a $775 cap hit, expiring in 2025. He's been in the Avs pipeline now for some time. I'm a little defensive of Trent Miner because I think people have viewed him as an East Coast goalie for a long time, just expecting him to stay buried in the East Coast League forever. And he's had AHL call-ups where I think he's done everything asked of him. I felt it was his time to get a chance full-time in the American League and sort of battle starts. Now, Kevin Mendelisi was also brought in this offseason, and he has been injured. So Trent Miner has really had a bigger opportunity to claim the starter's net in Loveland. Now, I don't think he's even where Eustace was at in terms of being a third-string goalie in the NHL. I think Trent Miner is still a couple years removed from being seriously in that conversation. But I don't think you can just discard him either, especially at 23 years old, which is young for a goaltender. He's doing great things with the Eagles, especially on their penalty kill. He's come up with huge saves in big moments and demonstrates such a calm under pressure. That is often the case in the American League. A lot of it is done on special teams and not 5v5, and so that really challenges goalies in the American League. I think sometimes that can slant their numbers a little bit, which is why goalies who have great American League numbers are usually just good goalies. I'm looking at like Dustin Wolf and Ugesh Dostal. But Trent Miner also has pretty good numbers coming out of this year with a 901 save percentage, 2.46 goals against average. And he's been a big part of the Eagles winning some games and climbing in the Pacific Division.
He's definitely been, we talked about this earlier. He was able to step in and finally get some consistent starts with the Eagles, and I think that's exactly what he needed. And I think he's brought them a little bit of consistency where they were probably worried not having their first string goalie. He said this earlier too when he played for the Avs. I think he did pretty well considering he was a third string, and he was kind of pushed into that opportunity and had to adjust really fast. And at that time, we weren't getting consistency from any goaltender. So to see him step into that role, I think he did a lot of good things for the Avs, and I hope that maybe he can step in a little bit too. If we have a goaltender that happens to be sick, then maybe he can come back with the Avs for a little bit and see what he can do.
Absolutely, especially with Kevin Mendelisi being out for a little bit here. That puts a big spotlight on, all right, if something were to happen, illness, otherwise, who is the next in line? You feel maybe a little bit less confidence if it's Trent Miner, but I also think he's done a lot of things right to earn the American League opportunity he's getting this year. And I will not accept Miner slander. I also wanted to share with people who loved Pavel Francouz that Trent Miner also has his pilot's license, just like our beloved Frankie, which is a very cool fact about him.
That can't be a coincidence.
Yes.
There's no way that that's a coincidence.
Trent Miner is the future Pavel Francouz. You heard it here first.
When this happens, we have to come back and clip this exact moment so everybody knows that Meghan is psychic.
Meghan is psychic. The vibes of Francouz are pretty unmatched. So that's going to be hard for any goalie or otherwise to compete with. He's definitely missed. But I think Wedgwood and Blackwood bring back a little bit of what Frankie brought that is outside of goaltending for a second.
Definitely. And you were saying he does most of his work from Europe. I think the team really does miss that presence from him. It would be cool to see him around more often, like you kind of see with Cogs. So maybe soon.
I miss Chaos Machine, Jacob McDonald. I also thought when the Middleton call-up happened, ahead of that, I thought that Jacob McDonald would be the defenseman call-up because he is so versatile for the Avs, having played as a defenseman and a forward as needed. But Middleton, I'll give him some credit. One, I need to eat my words a little bit. I was very skeptical when Middleton was the one to receive the call-up.
I was too.
But he brings something very different from Jacob McDonald in ways that I can appreciate because McDonald is doing great things with the Eagles. So I would have very easily been happy with that call-up. But Middleton, going back to that physicality and presence, it helps to at least fill a little bit, that's a little generous, of the shoes that Josh Manson is left because he's kind of the only of his kind represented in the Avs decor in terms of having a little bit of puck skill, but also being very tough to play against, very punishing player. Keaton Middleton is a punishing player. That feels easy to say.
Isn't it so nice to be able to have that problem of which guy are we going to pull up? Because there's so many options and really great options. And that's a great problem to have. I'm excited to hear you say that.
It is a wonderful problem to have. And I just want to shout out how caffeinated we are because we have blown through so much of this right now. But there is one important thing that we have not gotten to yet, and that is a little Q&A with Chloe Theil, because we've brought you in front of the audience and we haven't really properly introduced you. Some people have wondered if there would be a formal introduction of you joining Guerilla, and funnily enough, you were here before me.
Yes.
People just didn't know that.
Yes, I was always behind the glass. But if you don't know me, my name is Chloe. I started with Guerilla, and I am the social media coordinator. So everything that you get to see posted on all of our socials, that's me. And then on top of that, I kind of joined the pod a little bit on the side, just because I think it's so much fun to do, and I love talking hockey.
Where did your love of hockey start?
So I've grown up here all my life. My dad played hockey. My brother played hockey. My boyfriend plays hockey. I'm surrounded by it 24/7. We went to a lot of games when I was a kid, and it's just kind of grown from there. And then I kind of realized that I wanted to make a career out of it. So I started working with the Avs last year, and that's how I met everybody.
And what would you say your role is at Guerilla? Because I'm going to say it's not. Yeah, I was going to say, you might
Everything.
say social media, but it's
Social
so much bigger
media.
than that.
Yeah, so social media, I do all of the editing. We do production of all of the shows, and then I guess talent now. So there's a lot of different things. When I first started, Jesse said that Guerilla likes people that are Swiss Army knifey.
Yes.
And I said, I'm a little bit Swiss Army knifey.
You're our 2022 JT Comfer. I have to make that stipulation because JT Comfer right now is having a little bit of a struggle year with Detroit. But you're 2022 JT Comfer at his best.
Yes, I love that.
I've also compared you to Cale Makar, though. So I'm a little all over the place with the type of mold that you fill here at Guerilla.
Yeah.
Because you also research lots of trends and what algorithms are doing to keep us up to speed on everything that we should be doing with social media practices. So there's a lot of research that you're doing to make sure we're doing the right things.
Yeah, there's a lot of it, and it's a one person team. It's just me, myself, and I. So I get a lot of help from the people around me, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. So
yes,
it's kind of like I feel like I'm constantly running 24/7, but I also like to be busy. I kind of get stressed out when I'm not busy. So it's a good problem to have.
Always running to include today. Talk about next man up mentality.
Right.
We're essentially the Colorado
We are
Avalanche.
the Avs.
We're a mirror image of the Avs. But I think someone in the chat is asking, who is your absolute favorite player of all time and current player?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. All time, I would probably say Joe Sakic. I absolutely love him. I worked in the PR department with the Avs last year, so we got to be around all of the players, and Joe Sakic worked in the same office I did, so it was definitely a struggle not to ask him to sign everything I owned.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely was not allowed to do that. So definitely of all time, currently my favorite player is Cale Makar. I'm sure anybody could have guessed that based on how I talk about him in our pods.
So what brought you to the Avs on the PR side initially? Did you know you wanted to work in sports in some capacity?
I remember so I graduated college in 2023, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I remember talking to somebody that worked at Franke, and they kind of said to me, start with your favorite brand and work backwards. And I was like, well, my favorite brand, probably one of them, is the Avs. So I first started and I did sponsorship for all of the teams. And then after that internship was over, I transitioned specifically to the Avs. And I just kind of knew from there that that's what I really enjoyed to do. I got to go to all the games, not for free because I actually got paid to go to the games.
Yeah.
Writing game previews and, pulling all kinds of crazy stats that nobody would ever know. It was just all so interesting to me. So I definitely wanted to continue that, and I'm happy I have.
And where did the social media aspect come into play? Is that something that you had more as a hobby? Is it something you've also been studying?
It was, I took marketing when I was in college, and I think I'm just so well versed in social media because I've grown up with it.
Yeah.
It's been such a current thing for me, and I kind of got into it because I got to hang out with a lot of people that worked in the social media department for the Avs, and I loved watching what they did. I thought it was so interesting, capturing everything, traveling with the team, all that kind of fun stuff. I loved seeing that, and then from then on, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in social media directly. So, yeah.
I'm going to give you a question to think about.
Okay.
It's going to be 2 truths and a lie and just kind of fun facts about yourself, but you don't have to answer right away. You have a chance to think about it because I want to talk about why we're here at 7 Brew. Again, they're letting us host a podcast here, and the location couldn't be more convenient because I'll be going up to Eagles in just a little bit, and the coffee was delicious. It is a one-of-a-kind drive-through and walk-up experience, fast and friendly service, waiting to serve you, and they've got incredible coffee choices, energy drinks, which I think Chloe should still try, so she does start doing laps around the drive-thru. And then they also have the smoothies and the teas, 20,000 flavor combinations, which actually caught us off guard because we pulled up in the drive-thru and then we needed to look at the menu and actually pick what we wanted. And there was a little panic that we actually won't be ready in time because they are moving us through this line so quickly, and we have 20,000 flavor combinations to choose from. I'm kidding. They have the menu very well laid out with some of the classic flavors that people are drawn to time and time again, and then also some more unique to 7 Brew coffees if you want to get creative with it. It's fully customizable. I did oat milk in mine. So before you hit the road, power up with 7 Brew in Firestone, newly opened, and experience the coffee revolution. This has been a really easy to get to too, just off I-25. So if you live anywhere in northern Colorado, it's pretty easy to make a stop here. And I'm already thinking about what my next drink might be.
And you can set up your own podcast right on the side of the building.
And you can also do podcasts from 7 Brew Coffee.
Somebody said you guys are matching. We are matching indeed. It's so much fun. Once again, if you come and buy a large drink, then you get a free t-shirt. So make sure you stop by to do that.
Yeah, they seem to be changing out the promotions with different ones each day. So I don't know if it's limited to just today or if they'll bring it back. So there might be some urgency to check it out today to make sure you get your t-shirt so you can match us.
Yeah. I want to throw this question up too.
I love this name
Enough
here.
hockey interest to learn to skate. Funny enough, I just bought my first pair of skates.
They're beautiful too.
They are absolutely beautiful. They are Bauer skates, and I am learning how to skate as we speak. Not right now, physically.
She's actually
right now. I'm wearing my skates
now under the table.
Yes, I'm very interested in learning. My boyfriend is teaching me, and he is a hockey player, so he's teaching me how to skate like a hockey player, which is really nice. But it's a lot of work, and I will never discount how much work it takes for the players to be able to skate the way they do. It definitely makes me understand it a little bit more. I'm sore after 20 minutes,
This might be why I love defensemen of all the positions, because backward skating is very challenging for me personally. And the ease of which they do it, the mobility and the control over what they're doing is so impressive to me. Have you ever been up to Evergreen?
I have. I love Evergreen. And then the place we usually go is Keystone.
Ooh,
and
that's awesome.
It's that outdoor pond, and it's so much fun to skate on. And then they have like a separate little rink that has nets in it, so you can go in there and do a little stick and puck too. So gonna have to explore that.
I did that once in Evergreen, and a dad was teaching his young son how to play hockey.
Yeah.
And so he came over to our group of friends because he could tell that we were of a similar skill level to help play with his young son. It was very adorable and very humbling, but also so fun because at any level of your learning, you can still try to play hockey on those outdoor rinks with the little mini-sized rinks with their own nets, and I think that's really fun.
I always say when I'm skating, I say I don't know what to do with my hands, and I feel like I would be more comfortable holding a stick. With a stick.
It's stabilizing.
So it's gonna have to happen, but I do agree. It's very humbling to see kids on the ice that are like 3 years old that skate so much better than I do. So,
all right. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to think of your truths and a lie because I'm going to ask the chat. Okay, good. What our D pair name should be? One, we don't really know if D pairs get names. Kind of like a line would get a name, like Val's House that Chloe came up with. but we're between a couple of options. MC Hammer is one of them,
Because Meghan, Chloe, and C.
and the Sour Patch Kids. I think we're a combination of a little sour and a little sweet. So
That's a good one.
depends on what day it is too.
Mhm.
But let us know what you guys are thinking for a D pair name. And now, Chloe, teach me some away.
Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm double jointed in both of my elbows. Okay. I am naturally blonde, and I played volleyball growing up.
I think the lie is naturally blonde,
You're so right.
which makes it a very cool one. I didn't know you played volleyball.
Yes,
That's super fun. How long did you play?
I played for just about 10 years.
And you're still doing it recreationally, aren't you?
I do. I still play every once in a while. Yeah, I played competitively for my entire life,
Nice.
and I never lost that competitiveness. So I was like, I need to get back into this because I miss that side. It's a good way to release a little bit of stress and anger. So yeah,
Anger. Do you have a lot of anger?
sometimes
What makes you angry?
a lot of things.
Pet peeves?
Lots of pet peeves. It's less anger and more like annoyedness.
That's fair.
Yep. But I did say blonde because when I was a kid,
Okay.
I was blonde-ish, but then
it grew darker over
it grew
time.
darker. So I can't say that I am officially naturally blonde.
Double jointed in both
Yes,
elbows.
I want to
Can we-
show it, but
is
I
it weird?
want
Can we
to
show
give
people?
a trigger warning here.
Okay.
So it like bends this way and this way. Yeah, it's really weird.
How
And
did you discover?
So actually playing volleyball when you have a platform like this,
Ah.
in pictures both of my elbows would stick out more than other people's. So I
Interesting.
liked to say that made me better as a
I was
volleyball
just
player
about
to
to
have that. Yeah.
There's an advantage to doing that.
Yeah. And my elbows pop all the time. You heard that when I did that.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing. We've covered a lot of ground
Yes.
on our show today. I think it's time to start winding it down because the Eagles game is starting in less than 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's their last home game in 2024. They're going to go on the road following the year. So it's a great way to send off the fans with a matinee game. And they had an amazing game last night. So I don't know if they can top a Prashevov hat trick.
It's great that the Avs had a back-to-back and now the Eagles are having a back-to-back too. That's very fitting for both of
Yeah.
these Colorado teams.
All right. Tomorrow, you're going to be at the Avs game.
Yes. Both of us will be there
Avs
wearing our
Seattle.
matching shirts. Just kidding.
We'll be in our matching shirts, so come to 7 Brew and get your matching shirt. We're going to all be at the game tomorrow.
That would be awesome.
That
we
would
should
be
do that.
awesome. Do you have any expectations for Avs Seattle tomorrow? It's kind of like the last day of school. Did the Avs get a little bit of senioritis?
Gosh, I hope not.
I don't know if that exists. Like, there's got to be some equivalent of the last day of class before holiday break, I guess.
I really, really hope, like we talked about yesterday, that they are going to do a little bit better at home. And they come back off of this road trip and they're a little bit refreshed and they're able to sleep in their own beds.
Yes.
And they'll come back tomorrow and be good for the fans that haven't been able to see them get as many wins as they would like to this season.
One possible storyline we're looking at, Josh Manson. He was potentially an option to return on the road trip. Obviously, that didn't happen, but
Right.
I'm hoping that still means that he's on the brink of return.
Yes.
The possibility of it being as soon as tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be at morning skate with me?
I think so. I don't know why I wouldn't. I'm going to plan it.
All right, you guys. MC Hammer will be coming back tomorrow for morning skate. So make sure to follow Guerilla Sports for all of our game day coverage tomorrow. And give Chloe a shout out. Make sure to like this video, comment, go follow her on Twitter. She is the backbone of Guerilla Sports. At the last minute, travel delays coming up to Firestone. Chloe, you are a rock star.
It's been awesome. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to hang out with you and Jesse and do this pod with you guys because it's so much fun. It is so much fun.
Thank you for being here. All right, we'll talk to you guys more tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.